not that this is financial advice, this is art advice, but like the supply crunch is coming. The miners are about to lose it all, and not lose it all. They're about to go to 50% production. And the one thing that's really feeding these miners right now is the Grayscale outflow. Grayscale in particular is sitting, man, when they started, I think they had 450-ish thousand spot whole Bitcoins in their treasury that they've been offloading. There's not many things in the world that can dump like $0.3 billion all day, every day, but they do. And it's, dear Lord, Barry's got a giant bag of powder. He really does. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But the one thing I wanted to show you guys, and I thought I had it added up in the charts, but I don't. So give me 1 second because I gotta grab this screen cap. Here we go. So this, I didn't really find the data of what is a projection of what Barry goes to zero. So there's a few things here that I want to talk about. I take that back. He started out with over 600,000 Bitcoin. So this chart here, I made it in Excel. It has some very, very, very gross assumptions in it. So know that going into this. Let's go through what we do know. Grayscale's been net outflowing since the start of this ETF release and approval. They started out with a little over 600,000 spot Bitcoin, and it's dumping. They have the highest fee structure out of all these ETFs. So all the people that were in GBTC, they want to get over to the lower fee IBIT, lower fee Fidelity, all the other ones, right? They want out. Or they just went out of crypto altogether. We're back at the all-time high, and they're not even transferring over to the other ones. They're just getting their cash back, and they're out. That's fine. But the miners offload 900 Bitcoin a day. This dude's offloading $300 billion worth of Bitcoin every day. And it's going to go to a point someday, one day, Grayscale is not going to be an outflow anymore. It's going to be an inflow. Or just go flat. It's one of the two, right? But if we make the assumption Barry's going to bleed dry, and I have to make that assumption because somewhere along here, 100,000 Bitcoin, 200,000, 300,000, maybe it's 50,000 Bitcoin. We don't know. There's a point where there's no more sellers left in BlackRock. I'm sorry, in Grayscale. I don't know where that is. No one does. Even if you put all the holders in a room, they can't really tell you when that is at the end of the year. But what we do know is if they do go to zero, they can't dump anymore. It's just, that's the wall. It's a gross projection. It's a gross assumption. But I have to assume if I bleed Barry to zero, how long does that take? Because I can actually calculate that. So you'll notice that this line is moving up and down, wiggling. This is based off these flows. I went back and took every single day that Grayscale has sold to the market since the approval. And once we hit this last date, I haven't updated it this week. I think I did it Monday, actually. Once we hit this date, the line turned straight. And what this line is I took the average of every single day of the outflow and came up with a daily outflow number, and then I projected it until it hit zero. And right now, assuming Grayscale keeps offloading at the same rate, and we know they won't. That's another assumption. They're not, when they're down to like very few Bitcoin, they're not going to offload 300 billion a day because there's just not that many sellers left percentage wise. But assuming they did, assuming we go to zero, walking into this knowing that it's a gross assumption, I can at least ballpark. If we keep bleeding, he's done by June, end of June, July. Likelihood is somewhere along the way, like 200,000, 100,000 or something like that. He's going to run out of sellers, and it'll start inflowing. Especially if they drop the price of the fees, which they're talking about doing now, and saying it's coming. So somewhere along the lines, and it could go past this, it could be before this, I don't really know, but just so I can kind of ballpark it, I've got the halvening coming up in less than a month. I've got Barry potentially bleeding out sometime at the end of July. So it's really, 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 really likely Grayscale doesn't have powder to burn by like Q3 of 2024, Q3, Q4. And in the halvening cycle, this is kind of what we're looking at. I think I need to move this because I did the calculations, but we'll just call it like July. Grayscale is going to run out of powder after the halvening. And right now, Grayscale's offloading like 10 times what the miners are doing now. Post halvening, that's going to be like 20 times what the miners are dumping, right? So you want to talk about like a halvening having an effect on the market in which number go up. This is like 20 times that once he's bled out, and he is going to bleed out at some point. It's going to happen, and it's probably this year. And no one's really talking about that on Twitter, so that's why I actually kind of dropped it in an Excel sheet and just started calculating it, knowing I'm wrong. I know these assumptions are wrong. Like 418, 419, 420, halvening's happening. Like that's real close, easy to calculate. This thing's gonna wiggle, but I know it's not coming tomorrow. I know it's not coming next month, but once we start getting towards the end of the July to the end of the year, somewhere in here, I think he's gonna go dry. And if you can turn berry green, not an offloader, this is going to get nuts. There's just no supply. Frankly, I don't know where the North American exchanges are going to get the supply from. I really, really don't. And people ask what happens when they can't do supply. Price is going to start depegging. And is it going to be healthy? We have seen depegs on altcoins before. A really, really good example of that was Say. Say depegged on Coinbase when they had a hiccup with their deposits. So the market makers couldn't arbitrage it anymore, and price instantly went up 25%. Instantly, within an hour or two. Very, very fast. The point being is you want to talk about like your super cycle setup. You're coming into a point where there is a super cycle supply potentially squeeze on the actual exchanges. We don't even have options yet on this, but that is coming too and could even make it worse. So keep that in mind. And that's why you kind of see me not posting as much Twitter charts as normal. I'm not really interested in scalp trading. I've pretty much been trying to pack my bags for the past 6 months, is knowing this is like my last window of opportunity to pack bags. And that's where I'm at. We printed new all-time highs. We've had the highest daily closes of all time. The halvening's coming up in less than a month. I mean, you can hit me with a 30% pullback from this all-time high and take me to like 50,000. I'm just gonna buy more.